If I asked you who the top player in the St. Louis Blues was, but you couldn't say Robert Thomas, who would you say? I'll talk about this coming up here on Locked on Blues.
You're Locked on Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked on Blues. I am your host of Locked on Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked on Blues, I'm going to talk about the top player in the St. Louis Blues. That is not Robert Thomas. I know, but we have to do this. I'm going to talk about Captain Braden Shen and just captaincy in general. And of course, my favorite Friday segment, Are We Feeling Blue? I feel like it is not a Blues week if I don't do my favorite Friday segment. So definitely need to do that coming up here on Locked on Blues. I do want to let you know, however, that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I hope everybody is having a happy Friday. There's currently a hurricane going on outside of my place, so I hope that the power doesn't go out. But anywho, let's go talk about some top players. So the reason why I propose this question, it's because I think universally we all know that the best player on the St. Louis Blues happens to be number 18, Robert Thomas. There's no doubt whatsoever, in my mind at least, that he is the Blues' top player. But however, it did get me thinking. If Robert Thomas wasn't in the question, who would the top player of the St. Louis Blues be? So I narrowed it down to a couple options that I had. I'm going to share what you had, but let me go talk about what I had. So I had to think forwards. Who, on the forwards would be the best player besides Robert Thomas? Well, of course, a player that came to my mind was Jake Neighbors. But then I thought, okay, he doesn't have that much experience. So then I narrowed it down to maybe Bushi. And then I was like, well, while Bush didn't have the best season last season, he was consistent beforehand. And then just as a wild card, I did put in Captain Braden Shen out of respect. But that's who I had in forwards. Defensively, only one real answer, and that was Colton Parayko. But do I think that he is the best player on the team besides Robert Thomas? I don't know. And then we go to in net, obviously Bennington and Hofer. I would have to choose my man's Jay Binns. Being said, if I had to take all those players I named and said, okay, who would be the best player on the St. Louis Blues? I would have to go with number 50, Jordan Bennington. And the reason why is simple. He is our star goalie. I mean, he is phenomenal. And I know what the NHL rankings say, he's not top 10 to them. But to me, he is a top 10 goalie. So I do feel like he was robbed, but it's just because of how the team was in front of him. But that's who I have. However, I did ask you on Twitter at Locked On Blues. I said, St. Louis, I need to know who the best player on the Blues is, but you can't include Robert Thomas. So on my own personal account at Haley T. Simon, I did say Benner. That got 5 likes. Then Luther said Jordan Kyrou. Drop Hockey Show also said Kyrou. Now, I understand that Jordan Kyrou gets a lot of negativity, a lot of hate, and I understand that he did put up good points, and I'm not denying that at all. You know, he had some great goals, great assists. I think he's really smart, but I just can't say that Kyrou is stronger than Jordan Bennington. And while it's really weird, I guess, in a way to compare a forward to a goalie, they're all players at the end of the day, and I feel like what Benner does is just on another level, but I'm not denying that Kyrou isn't a good player, so I want to make that very clear. Then Maddie says Bennington, Bush, Parayko, Kyrou in that order. So I do feel like, honestly, that does make sense. I mean, Benner 100%, Boosh, I completely understand why you have him. Pareko, again, solid best defender on the team. And Kyrou, I'm really liking all this Kyrou love, by the way. Seawell 30 or Seawell 3110 says, Boosh, there's no second place below average roster. But I feel like you were forgetting Kyrou. Someone said, Blues or Junior Blues? I'm talking about the St. Louis Blues, not the Junior Blues. Tony says, Benner is rock solid in net. Absolutely. Now, Aaron said Robert Thomas, even though that's not what the question asked, but I understand why you have Robert Thomas. David says, as he was a majority of last season, it has to be Jordan Binnington. Old stuff. I love the Blue Note logo, by the way, in your profile picture says Jordan Binnington. The Josh says Benner. Josh is awesome. Kev says Benner, and that does include Robert Thomas. Now, that got a lot of likes. So, what Kev is saying is that Benner is the best player on the team and not Robert Thomas, which I thought was really interesting. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. That's why I put the question out there. I want you as a fan, I want you as an active listener, my everydayers, I want you to have a voice. I want you to share your opinions. And I think that's what makes this podcast so fun, is that I am so open to what you have to say. So I do find that interesting because, in my opinion, I think Robert Thomas is the best player on the team, but I completely can understand why somebody would have number 50, Jordan Binnington, as their best player on the team. I feel like goalies are such an essential part of a hockey team, obviously, for very obvious reasons, right? So if you don't have a good guy in net, you're probably not going to go anywhere. So I get it. I just feel like I am just on this Robert Thomas tunnel vision right now, which is fine, but I do like that answer a lot. Jason says Boosh. Daniel says Booshy. Nathan says Booshy. Tom G says Binner. Stacy says Binner. Bruce says Binner. And Louis Blues says Binner. So this post got a lot of attraction, a lot of comments, and I think that overall, a lot of people think that Binner is the solid number 2 best player on the team, while there's some others that think that he is the number 1 player on the team. We also had a lot of love for Jordan Kyrou, which I am really happy about. As I said, I don't think Kyrou gets enough love, enough recognition. Now, you might be wondering, why did I say Jake Neighbors ahead of Jordan Kyrou? It's about the future, and I think that's my problem, is that I'm always so focused on the future of the Blues, and I need to take a minute to where I can just put myself in the present moment and say, okay, Haley, now where do you see, the second best players, And I don't know if that makes sense or not make sense, but I feel like I'm just like looking ahead. So I'm like, oh, well, I know Jake Neighbors is eventually going to be one of the better guys on the team. However, that didn't happen yet. So I need to kind of refocus myself and remember that this is now presently on the St. Louis Blues. Who is the best player that you cannot include Robert Thomas in? And that's the real question. I like that Pareko got a lot of love, as he should. It's unfortunate, right, that the Blues don't have that many star players. And I think there's some other teams in the NHL, some of these other organizations that have multiple star players. I mean, you look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, you have, Austin Matthews, you have Mitch Marner, you have a bunch of guys, you have the Devils, you got Luke Hughes, Jack Hughes, Nico, whatever. I don't really care about the Devils. I'm trying to think of other teams that are relevant. I mean, there were so many trades that happened this offseason that I feel like I am kind of missing a lot of key players. I mean, Florida Panthers, you have Matthew Tkachuk, then you have Bobrovsky, Barkov. So you do have a lot of guys on that team. There are so many trades today. However, I do want to talk about Braden Shen captaincy. And I know I didn't put this in because this kind of just all happened, but I want to talk about a guy on the Thunderbirds, who is no longer with the T-Birds. that left a really nice message and made me kind of get into my feels a little bit. But I want to tell you about my friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only. Available to U.S. customers. So there is a lot to talk about. Number one, happy birthday. Because speaking of captains, to the one, to the only Brett Hall. Obviously, one of the purest goal scorers of all time, as the great Tim Peel said. What a legend. And I feel like, honestly, he's done a lot for the community. So that's needless to say. Anywho, I'm going to talk about some of the NHL put out when it comes to captaincy. Well, this is NHL public relations. NHL stats, Captain's Corner. Only a select few receive the honor to captain an NHL franchise. Come along as NHL stats detail some of the players to don the C for the Blues. So we have, of course, the most recent captain, Braden Shen. And it says Braden Shen is the current captain of the St. Louis Blues and the 24th in franchise history. He enters the 2024-2025 season, 2-game winning goals of becoming the 7th player to score at least 30 with the club. Most was Brett Hull with 70. Then 2018-2019, the Blues fans will remember forever Alex Pietrangelo. He captained the Blues for its first Stanley Cup in 2018-2019. They were the first team in the expansion era to win a championship after ranking last in the overall standings at any point after their 30 games. Then we have Mr. Chris Pronger from 1990 to 2000. The year I was born was 1999. So, special place in my heart. Anywho, it's one of the 5 defensemen in NHL history to capture the Hart Trophy and the most recent to do so. He was the first blue liner to capture the award since Bobby Orr in 1971 to 72. So I really like that the NHL did this, and it was kind of random. I wasn't expecting this at all, and I'm like, wait, why is the NHL giving the Blues a lot of love? Like, it didn't make sense to me, but it was just so cool. Like, Al McManus, Dallas Drake, Ryan O'Reilly, Eric Brewer, so many cool guys, right, to name. Wayne Gretzky, Sutter, the Plaguers, so many guys that were the captain, for the Blues. And it just made me think about Captain Braden Shen and his legacy. And there has to be more than the legacy that he's already had. I mean, I say legacy lightly because you're going to always be in history of being the 24th captain for the St. Louis Blues. But what is Captain Braden Shen going to do for the Blues? And that is the question. And that's why I wanted to talk about. Obviously, for Alex, he got the Blues to win their first ever Stanley Cup. So pretty special stuff, right? And then you think about some of these other players, and Ryan O'Reilly really did capture the heart of everybody, okay? Obviously, for 3 seasons, he was our captain, and I feel like, despite the trade and all that went down, he really was well loved here in St. Louis. So I want Captain Braden Shen to be able to take the Blues back to the playoffs. I do. I really want that from him. I think it is possible. However, as the statistics said, you have legends like a Brett Hall who were able to put up so many, points and goals. We need Shen to step it up a little bit more this year. Middle of last season, I did notice a shift in him with a lot more energy. So I was happy to see that. However, there is always more that he can do, and I believe that he will bring it because, again, at the end of the day, you really do want your players to execute as best as they can. And I am excited. I really am excited to see what's going on. Also, speaking of the NHL and tweets, I know this segment was about Captain Bird and Shen. Just a lot to talk about with the NHL. The NHL put out this stupid graphic that they had to make. It was photoshopped Blue Note sweaters on Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk, Clayton Keller, and Adam Lowry. What is the NHL doing? Because seeing Matthew Tkachuk wearing the Blue Note makes me physically ill because I want it that badly. It looks so natural on Brady. It looks so good on Clayton Keller. It looks so good on Adam Lowry, but on Matthew Tkachuk especially, it just makes me want to vomit because that's how badly I want this. And I had beef with the NHL because then they put out a series of tweets, right? And it's all these different players and, obviously I'm feeling sick to my stomach because first off, nobody wants to see that, right? They had the Islanders guys, they had the Canucks, they had Utah, and it's kind of ironic because they had Austin Matthews, and I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. But it just was really funny seeing all the tweets and everything like that. But I felt physically ill. And I was kind of mad at the NHL because I have wanted this, as you know, for a very long time. I have wanted the Kachucks to be wearing the Blue Note. Even, Clayton Keller, Adam. I want the hometown guys too. And I quoted it and I said, one day we will see a Kachuk in the Blue Note again. And I do believe that. I really do. There has to be a way that we can look into the future and see this because I do believe that it's going to happen. And yeah, it just makes me physically ill though because I'm like, they did not have to go that hard with the Photoshop at all. So I want to talk to so much has happened in Blues life, Blues land. And essentially what happened with the Thunderbirds. For those that don't know, the T-Birds are the Blues' AHL team. And this happened with the KHL. Spartak Moscow has signed a one-year contract with 26-year-old forward William Bidden. Yep. So Springfield quoted it and said, Will, thank you for the best 3 seasons in Springfield. We're going to miss the passion and energy you brought to every single game. You will be very missed in the Thunderdome. Good luck in Moscow. So Will went on, and I have to tell you, as somebody that's a big Thunderbirds fan, I have seen him play. So I was a little surprised, but I understand why he's going to the KHL. He said, looking back at the past couple of years, I feel fortunate for the support and the dedication I received from the St. Louis Blues and the Thunderbirds staff. Their hard work behind the scenes has made all the difference for me. And then he posted a couple pictures of him actually wearing the Blue Note and playing in the couple Blues games that he did play in. And then, of course, with Springfield. So Will went on. This is a 3-part thread. To my teammates, thank you for the countless memories we've created together on and off the ice. I am grateful for all the opportunities I've had with this organization and for the valuable experience I've gained along the way. It is pictures with him and his teammates, a lot obviously from Springfield because that's where he really did play. And then finally, lastly, a very special thank you to all the fans in Springfield who supported me and cheered me on every night in the Thunderdome 41. That was brutal. Obviously, him playing in Moscow will give him an opportunity to really excel. His brother Sam Bidden still here, so we still have one of the Bidden boys. But I thought that was so cool. Sam's 24, so not too far apart in age. But I just thought it was so cool that they played together, and I wish him the best of luck. I mean, I'm 25, and I'm sure if I was in the NHL and I was mostly in the AHL, I would consider the KHL. And I'm seeing a lot of players now doing that throughout the league. So I get it. Good luck. But yeah, it's always a little bit of a rough feeling when you see a player that you do enjoy leave the league, but it's for the best for him. He's still playing professional hockey. I'm going to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, and I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to fanduel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Now, this is my favorite Friday segment, and I do this every single Friday. But before I do that, I just want to let you know that this is off season right now. Stella, my cat, is with me. But in off season, I will be posting about 3 to 4 episodes per week. I'm enjoying some of my time off. I got my car fixed. Somebody asked if my car is okay. 4 new tires, a couple of new brakes. But yeah, I am okay. I know some people ask if I'm okay. It's just a little bit of an off season for a month, and then I'll be back to 5 episodes a week per normal. But anywho, are we feeling blue? Was this a good week or a bad week for the St. Louis Blues? I would say this was a pretty good week. One, the NHL recognized us, which is a huge thing. We got some light on some players, like our prospects, Theo, that they're going to be probably coming over next season. So that's a good thing. So SHL, let's go. Swedish Hockey League. That's if you don't know that. Um, we also got to see a Photoshop picture of Matthew and Brady Tkachuk wearing the blue note currently. And that kind of gave me a lot of hope for the future. So that was exciting. I had a lot of positive comments about Jordan Kyrou, which is something I don't get often. So that was a positive. And I'm trying to think. The only bad thing this week was about Will Bidden going to the KHL because that sucks. But other than that, it was a pretty good week. I mean, NHL social media gave the Blues quite a bit of attention. Yeah. It's Brett Hull's birthday today. So what a legend. And I can't think of anything bad. Still no update on Torrey Krug, so I guess it's kind of like iffy because we don't know what's going on. He probably will need surgery. I would be very surprised if he didn't. But I would say that this was a good week for the St. Louis Blues, as good as it can get during a quiet week in the offseason. It was a lot of positivity from you, so thank you. And it was a lot of positivity from the NHL and their socials, and that doesn't happen very often here in St. Louis. So it was overall a really good week. So I can't complain. I am trying to think of negatives. And from this week, there really isn't any negatives that I can think of. Speaking of things that I guess I could classify as a positive and a negative, well, the Cardinals did win their series against the Rays despite their loss yesterday, but they're taking on the Royals tonight. So it's series 1. So that's kind of cool. So I guess things are going well in St. Louis. So again, good week. Good week for the Gateway City. All right. I will talk to you on Monday. And like always, let's go Blues.